Hi, I'm Kathy and welcome to Eclectic Images. Today I'm going to be continuing on with our Venetian Mask series, and this time using the Jester headpiece with the music accessories. So that's going to build it out and make it look like some of the masks with them look like they've got print music coming off as a Jester headpiece. So that's the look we're creating today. Okay, so our stamps we're going to use is the Venetian Mask, the Jester headpiece, the music extra bits, and then possibly a little bit of the background music stamp as well, just to create a bit of a border for our card. Our colouring will be done with some sepia, some markers from the Pentel brush markers in the sepia and the olive. I'm going to keep this one to very earthy tones. Our inks will be Malted Mauve for our basic mask stamping, some Versamark for embossing, and just a bit of Versafine Clair and Versafine Clair Pinecone for stamping of the actual music so that it gets that sepia look to it. Okay, so in my stamp press, I've already got a bit of card loaded. Now, when you're stamping this, it's a little bit reverse to how you think you're going to do it. So I'm just going to use my masks just to work out where on the card everything's going to sit, so that I can make sure that I'm fairly even both sides of the card, that I've allowed enough room at the top and bottom. There's no good stamping my mask bit so low that I can't fit this part in. And as you can see, the Jester mask actually wraps around the face shape a bit, which means that this is our most foreground stamp. So this is what we're going to stamp first. Now, I'm going to actually use the mask in place to line up my stamp. The reason for this is that with this stamp, it's quite floppy in shape. So because I've already pre-cut a mask, I want my stamp to fit that masked shape. If I was just to not have that there to line up with, I might actually have this laid out with the bits spread further out or further in, and then when I go to line my mask up, it's not going to match. So by having the mask there and actually lining the stamp up with the mask, I then know that I'm the same shape as the mask. So let's just make sure that I am fitting over the mask nicely. Then I can pick that up and pop the mask out of there. So it's just a way of making sure that our bits are all going to work together. Otherwise, I could position this anyhow, stamp it, and then stamp it again on scrap and make another mask for that particular shape. But because I want to work with a mask I've already cut, so I don't have to stop and cut another mask, it's just easier to line it up that way. Now let's ink up with our Versamark, and we're going to emboss in gold. So I'll get that all laid out ready. So ink up our headpiece. A lot of Venetian masks, they have a lot of gold work on them. So having our headpiece in gold is going to look really good. And this also gives a border around the edge of the actual Venetian face itself. So that will be in gold as well, which will look fabulous. So nice and juicy with the Versamark. Pop it in, press down. Make sure we press around the whole image. Getting right to those bells at the bottom and up the top. Lift up, quickly whisk it out and get our gold powder on. Now we'll just get that little fine brush that I use, give it a tap, turn it over, tap on the other side. Now if there's a few little breaks in our gold band there, that's okay, because we can pop a little bit of glitter or something over that later. So that's nothing to worry about. If we want it to be a solid, really perfect solid gold, once I've embossed it, I could actually go over with a Versamark pen and just fill in those little bits. But I can't re-ink it with the Versamark ink now. So if I haven't got it stamped well enough at this point, there's nothing I can do until after I've heated it. Rightio, gold powder back in the jar, out of the way. Let's get that all off to one side. We'll clean off our headpiece and remove that from the platform because we're finished with that one now. And we can move our platform out of here and get that powder heated. We'll come back to the platform for our next bit. So let's get this beautiful gold outline all heated. I will heat a little bit from the back in case my card is a bit damp at all. We have had quite a wet day today, so everything's a little bit humid. Watching that band goes great, isn't it? Just whew. Just check I've got everywhere. I haven't quite. I want it beautiful and golden shiny over the whole lot. No little powdery bits left anywhere. Good. Okay. So now we can pop it back into our stamp press. Doesn't matter where we lined it up, as long as I watch what I've lined it up with, that in case it moves, I can come back and position it again in the same spot. So this time we're going to work out where our our face is going to go. So we want the top line of the face to be within that gold band. So okay, that's lined up perfectly, so we can take that out of there. Now we mask this, and that way that face is going to go in underneath those little bits there. And our mask should fit our design perfectly because we lined it up with it earlier. Okay, let's just ink up with our Malted Mauve. And I will take out the eyes. Ready for me to ink those with black. Okay, press down. I did double check that the mask was there before I pressed down, although I think it may have moved, which might not be so good. But we're still tucked in behind those, so if it did move at all, we've got away with it. Okay, give that one a clean. And we'll ink up the eyes with the Versafine Clair Nocturne. Just make sure it's nice and dry. You know, when I'm working with this stamp, I think I really should make a stamp that is just the eyes. Make life much easier. Make sure there's none on the nose there. And because it's only the eyes, I don't need to put the mask back in place. Are we happy? Not quite. So just checking, the paper did lift, but it didn't actually move at all. Let's ink those up again. It's the top edge that I'm not getting inked quite well enough. Let's just dab over that a bit more. Check the nose. Okay, perfect. So we have our face and we have our basic Jester headpiece in position. Now let's bring in the music. So here we have a stamp that's designed to fit within all those bits. So we just have to line it up so that the bell fits in the spot, the gap there, so that our legs are lined up with, see that's coming in a bit further than what our headpiece is, so I've just got to push that out a little bit, and that will get those lining up properly. Okay. Okay, so we've got it lined up. Now I'm going to stamp it with the Versafine Clair, because the Versafine Clair will dry waterproof, and that way I can add a little bit of shading with the Pentel markers, and as I watercolour that, the design's not going to move. Now I had planned to use Pine Cone, but then I decided that was a little bit too dark, so I've chosen to go with Acorn as well, which will tone in a little bit more with our sepia tone of the markers that we're going to use. So let's ink it up with the Pine Cone, making sure I've got all the way to the ends there. With the Pine Cone, with the Acorn. Now this is where you hold your breath and press down. And then lift up and go, oh my golly, that's amazing. Okay, let's take it out of there. We'll give our stamp a clean and pop it to one side as well. There is another stamp in the music set that we might use too. I've got this one on a separate block. It just goes over one of the eyes. So let's lift that out of there. And for this, I do believe we'll need to pop the mask back on again. Let's just check. We may not. So it fits over that eye. Yes, it does overlap there. So let's pop the mask back in again. Now it's got, for some silly reason when I made it, I put a solid eye shape in there, which is fine if you're stamping with black, that it just stamps another black over the top of your eye. Because we are swapping to a lighter coloured ink, it shouldn't affect how black that eye is. I could stop to lift out the black, but there's a lot of risk there that I'd be touching other bits of the stamp. So I'm just going to trust that the black won't change by putting the brown over the top. I actually put it there so you could to make sure you could line it up with it, and then realised after I'd made it that, well, that's actually going to create difficulties. But there we go, it's actually not changed the black at all, which is great. Because we're stamping with a lighter ink, it hasn't affected it. Right, now before we start doing any colouring, giving that a little bit of time to dry, let's have a look at doing our little bit of background piece. So I'll grab, let's grab a clean piece of paper. So you're not seeing confusion of other colours. So let's grab a clean piece, pop that on there, and let's look at our background stamp here, which is our music background. Now the top part of the stamp actually has, if you look on the packaging, the top part has a few words there, so that way you can tell that you've got the stamp up the right way. Now what I want to do is I want to bring a little bit of words in here, a little bit of music in here, and a bit in the bottom corner, but I don't want it overlapping the stamp at all. So what I'm actually going to do with the Acorn, making sure I've got the stamp up the right way, let's just grab our ink pad and just drag it a little bit so that we end up with a ragged corner there. And then I can position it so that it's not coming in too close to the stamp. And there we've just got that little bit of extra character. Okay, let's try and repeat the same in the bottom corner. So again, just checking that I've got my stamp up the right way. And we want to come onto that bottom corner there. So it's this side. So start off scraping a bit of ink more across the bottom and less up the sides. great effect. Just inking up just that little bit of a stamp, making sure it's overlapping off the edge of the card. And you know, I should have masked in case there was any ink left on there. I got away with it, but I should have actually masked all that just in case I hadn't cleaned my stamp well enough, because there was the danger that I was going to stamp music right into the middle of the face. That would not have pleased me. Okay, we'll get this out of the way. Let's just go over that with our heat gun slightly, making sure that all those inks are nice and dry. And before we add any watercolouring, let's put on a little bit of shading of our Malted Mauve, which won't be much on this side because we've got the music pattern in there. Although that depends. Do we have a bit of cheek colour showing through the music pattern? I think we might. So let's pick this up with our number 10 brush. Circle on the scrap paper first. Remember, you do not want too much coming onto the card. And I should have put the Jester mask in as well because I'm getting this colour onto the wings there, but that's okay because we're going to colour over it later with another colour, so that's okay. The other stamp that is in the music set that you may or may not choose to use is this one here, the treble clef, which wraps quite neatly around this side of the face. If you wish to put that in, it goes over the eye and wraps around that side of the face. I'm not going to use that one today. I feel we've got enough happening at the moment. Now let's get our markers, and what I can do is just put a little bit of the olive onto my mat here. The sepia I'm going to colour directly onto the card, and I've got my medium water brush standing by. So in these areas like this down here, which is quite shadowed, it's an underneath layer, we can make that a little bit darker and then keep the one on top a little bit softer. So we can add a little bit more of our colour in there, but not enough that we lose our music pattern. So same in this little piece here. And that'll be the same on the other side. So this then starts to create the feeling that these bits are folding over. Just might make that a little bit darker still. Okay, now on our bits that are folding over, I'll just grab a little bit of paper towel for cleaning my brushes. And I've got to choose how much of the olive green I add in, or whether I'm just happy with just the sepia. So clean my brush so I'm not adding extra colour where I don't want it. So we'll put a little bit. So we're going to make we still want to shade those edges so that this looks soft and antiqued, but we want it a lot lighter than that backing piece. So I'm just doing a very fine line of the marker. So hopefully we get a 3D look by having this other panel a bit darker. Let's actually deepen that shadow there off more. And that'll make the top bit pop out even more. Okay. Now this one, this is the top panel. So this is the finer one. So a very, very small amount of our marker in there. But in here, we'll add more depth because that bit is being shadowed by the bit that's folding over the top of it. still undecided about adding in the olive green or not. Keep playing with the sepia for a moment. Again, this is our under bit and that's the folding over bit. So I'll have very little on there. And quite a bit of shading around that little bell. Okay, that's our lighter part. But this one's in the foreground compared with that one, so it's okay if these two panels are a little bit lighter than that one. Isn't it a beautiful look though, the soft sepia? It just suits the music look so much. And you can see that Versafine Clair that we used underneath, the whole pattern there is just staying put. Just the way we wanted it. Okay, so a little bit up there. You'll notice I'm just turning my card around so that I can get the tip of that brush right into all the edges that I want it to get to. And I don't think I need the olive at all. I think I'm just going to leave it with that sepia. So I'll clean that olive off my plate. Pardon me for a moment. Find the lid to my sepia. What I do need is a little bit of a yellow just for the little bells. Okay, so let's come in with our yellow marker and just bring out our little bells and the metal bit that supports the bells. Now if that yellow is a little bit bright for it, because we've got everything so soft, we could still come in with a bit of our sepia marker, which I think I just put away.
What if I quite like it bright?
If you like it bright, you leave it like that. If you're not so sure, we could just add a little bit of shading in there, just to tone it back a little bit, make it look a bit more like metal. See, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, that does make it more 3D.
And not quite as in your face. Now you could come in and decorate it more with some liquid pearls. I don't think it needs any glitter. I think the softness of the sepia doesn't need that glitter, but then, you know, Venetian masks, you can always add a bit of glitter if you want to. But all I'm going to do to finish this one off is to grab the Acorn colour again and just do a bit of a swipe around the edge. This will just help to tie in that little bit of inking that we did on the corners and make it all a cohesive card. So there we go, there's our Venetian mask with the music pattern used on it. Let me just clear a bit of space here, bring it forward to the black so Matthew can get a nice shot of it. And I think we could add a little bit more colour to the lips, but I think leaving it soft again just makes this part all more of a feature. So I hope you like that one. It's a lovely soft look. And I hope that gives you confidence when you look at this odd packaging and think, well, what on earth is that? Now you can see how it all starts to work together. Okay, thank you very much for watching this one tonight, and we will move on and have one more in this series, which is going to feature the Harlequin one, so hopefully you can join us for that. Okay, thanks for watching. See you again next time.